We are now in part 4b, section 4, and now we'll discuss what is a zero state, zero input computation of the output. Let's look at this figure. In this figure, we have the input x of t. We have initial condition of the system. We have the system h of t. And ht represent the system, the impulse response of the system. Now, we told you that we can convolve yt is equals to xt convolve with h of t. And we can do that only when we have zero initial condition. So this solution happens only when the condition of the system has zero inertia. So this guy is actually this green box here, x of t sending to h of t, and out comes something called the zero state solution. Here the word zero state or ZS is equals to the output due to a system only by input, and the system has zero state. What about the other guy? If the initial condition is not zero, then you can view the two things as input. One of them is xt and one of them is the initial condition. Then the initial condition is also sent into the system to get something called yzi. Zi means zero input, or actually you can say due to the initial condition. So this way of breaking down the problem to generate the output into two parts is a very clever way to analyze the system, because, for example, if number one, the input change, then we only need to calculate this guy. Then what happens is, if this change, the initial condition changes, then we only need to change this guy. Now let's graphically see how we can break the system into two. For the input x of t, we simply have actually an exact copy of this, and now there is zero initial condition for the system. h of t is completely relaxed, and out comes this one, sec4, zero state. Second one, if I put initial condition into the system, I will get zi, this guy, zero input. But notice here, on top is ht, the same as the original system. The bottom is h1 of t. It is very similar to ht, but not exactly so. And we'll derive the equation of h1 of t in the next slide. But the big picture of this diagram is simply to say that now I have two input. One is called xt and one is called the initial condition into the system. And therefore I should have two different output, one representing each of these different input. And the reason why we can do this is because the system is linear. Alright, so this part of this slide shows you why do we bother to split the response, and the answer is each of these one is easier to solve on its own. And if the initial condition changes, or if the input changes, we only need to calculate that particular output once. Okay, and we do not need to solve the entire problem again. We only need to solve the problem of the things that has changed. Alright, let us now have this example to derive y is ht, and what is the difference between ht and h1 of t? h1 of t is the impulse response. You can consider as the impulse response when we have zero input. We are firing initial condition into the system. What about when we fire x of t into the system? We need the h of t, the original system itself. It is the zero state impulse response. Let's begin with this equation here to describe a differential equation to describe the input versus the output. So this is a second order linear ordinary differential equation, and let's make our life simple. A's and B's are constant, so it's constant coefficient linear differential equation of the second order. To solve, once we are given a differential equation, we'll take the Laplace transform. So we have A here, A2, the Laplace of the second order differential yt is s squared ys minus s y naught minus y prime naught. The Laplace of a1 y dy dx is become a1 sys minus y naught. And the last one is a naught y naught, so we have a naught ys. Corresponding on the right hand side, we are only first order, so b1 dy dx becomes b1 s xs, and then we have the initial condition of the dy dx, then we have b naught xs for the second term here. We now push on to collect our terms on the left hand side. We are interested in ys as well as the xs. This polynomial is ys multiplied by this polynomial. Let's call him as. Xs have the polynomial. Let's call him bs. We have some extra term. These extra term are due to the initial condition. This is the initial condition from the y. And we have another initial condition. This is the initial condition from the x. Okay, let's group all these three things together. We have ys as on the left. We move the initial conditions to the right hand side. So is is the initial condition. It is the terms associated with the initial conditions due to the y as well as due to the x. What about bs? No, it remains on the right hand side. Now we are almost there. Remember that our motivation, once we have collected this equation, is to represent only ys. So we are interested to move as to the right hand side. So the as is divided to the right hand side to both ways. And remember, this is the input. This is the initial condition. This is simply a sum. Therefore, now we can perform what do you call that? Analysis independently. We can analyze this equation individually, or we can analyze this equation to get what is h of s times x of s for the response due to the zero state, or I should say due only to the input. Or I can analyze it only due to the initial condition, or I can say due to only the zero input. So now you see why HS and H1S exist. H1S is different to HS. In fact, it's very interesting. H1S is simply 1 over AS, while H of S is due to BS over AS. So with these slides, we understood that now we can cleverly divide the response into two parts. One due to the input, one due to the initial condition. They are called, due to the input is called zero state, and due to the initial condition is called the zero input. The next slide shows the same information. You can read it on your own. And with that, we'll go to the example in the next slide. Thank you.